Hi, everyone, and thank you so much, Tina. So for the next segment, we're talking about money markets and DeFi. You're joined here by Alex Batlin, hi, me, and we have two really interesting guests with us. We have James from Tendex and Stani from Aave. Stani, hi, Stani. Give us a brief overview, please, sir.
Hey, Alex. So I'm Stani Kulechov, the founder and CEO of Aave. So basically, the Aave team contributes building the decentralized Aave protocol. That is essentially a money market where you can deposit cryptographic assets into the protocol and earn interest. And also a credit line is granted to borrow against other assets. And I started building DeFi when it wasn't really called DeFi, but just so-called dApps, decentralized applications back in 2016, 17. And we launched the first lending protocol in Ethereum, and Aave is practically evolvement of that. And before that, I basically used to work in legal industry. So my background is in law. And before that, I built Web2 financial applications. So this has been a pretty exciting time for me to build something like this, given that DeFi is kind of like smart contracts talking to each other, and this new kind of internet in finance.
So I suppose we created Tendex. We launched it in Jan. It's a systematic market neutral fund. So we trade a whole lot of algorithmic systematic strategies, mainly across, almost actually completely across DeFi at the moment. And I guess my personal interest was I sort of fell in the blockchain space since 2015, 2016. I've been involved in designing some sort of different token economies, Civic, which was one of the sort of earlier projects that launched. I sort of helped redesign some of their token economics. I'm very interested in incentives and how sort of technology and finance come together. I believe that DeFi offers a lot of very interesting potentials, and then obviously on the fund side for us, interesting arbitrage opportunities and other sort of opportunities to earn yield. Although there's still sort of a number of hurdles before, I think, big institutions. So, this is sort of still very early stage, but exciting, and it's nice to be involved sort of at ground zero.
What I will do is I'll ask both James and Stani the usual question I ask, which is why DeFi? So Stani, love to hear more about Aave and why DeFi.
That's a cool question, because before I came to started to build applications on smart contracts, pretty much the deposits and lending facilities. Practically, I had actually a choice whether to build a smart contracts or just make the smart contracts surface small enough and do as much of off-chain execution as possible. And actually, when I was planning the actual business model, not the protocol itself. So I started from like a business model perspective, the thinking. Many of my closest kind of advisors and friends actually recommended that I should practically go with the centralized model, because that it's way more easier, and you could actually allow people to deposit fiat, and also people can deposit crypto and borrow directly fiat and send from the banking system. But for me, like the properties of what smart contract-based development provides, they're just so powerful, even without thinking the ecosystem. So let's say when you deposit to our protocol or are interacting with it any way, you practically see everything what's happening within the protocol. And this applies for the whole network. Let's say, for example, in Ethereum or something more straightforward like Bitcoin network. So you see all of the action that is happening. So you have practically transparent finance. So there is no black boxing in the sense that, let's say, how interest rates are decided, what kind of algorithms are used. are everyone paying equally in the same level from the interest rate or earning equally from that? So this transparency is very important factor. And also because smart contracts can be built in a way that they're hard to change. So it's basically immutability or governance. Practically, it ensures that transparency. And I think over time, what I realized that as the ecosystem started to grow more, that it wasn't only about basically the transparency or this functionality, but actually that's you started to see other things being built in the DeFi sector or in on-chain ecosystem. So before Aave, there was decentralized exchanges, and particularly we saw automated market making protocols such as Uniswap and many other things. So you kind of started to see like an ecosystem where smart contracts could talk to each other, and you as an end user, you practically have permissionless access to these facilities. So it actually doesn't matter anymore where part of the world you're accessing. You have the access to this kind of like an ocean of liquidity. And this is very fascinating to me.
James, why DeFi?
I guess that's the question I'm still trying to answer. I think there was a lot of hype and a lot of necessary hype and excitement, and I think a lot of that came about through yield farming. And I think it brought a lot of speculators into the space, and like any sort of mania, there was a crazy period in June, July, August, and now I think people are busy trying to sort of work out in more detail that the exciting parts of it, that composability, etc., allows for more, perhaps potentially more financial innovation. As Stani was saying, the idea that if you want to interact with the Stripe API, you need X permissions and agree to terms and services, etc. And the same with other policies and processes, slows down financial innovation to a degree, where here, as much as people can think of it, they can interact with it. The challenge with that is the risks that come about. So, the danger with these protocols isn't, I think, of course, when you design a smart contract, that has obvious danger, but I think what people are struggling to grapple with is the complexity as these different protocols begin to interact with each other. And it appears to be that those failing points, whether it's an Oracle failure or through some sort of attack, is costing the space a lot of money. But I guess it's a messy way of finding the best solution.
So what kind of, in your your fund, you invest in the crypto space, kind of what, as a institutional player, effectively, what are your barriers? What are the concerns and the tensions you have to kind of adopting DeFi as part of your investment strategy?
So I think for us particularly, we're a market neutral fund, and we and so that it has one sort of potential element. But I think that there's a layer above, which is that with any money manager speaking more general, is that you have to be able to explain your risks to your LPs, because at the end of the day, this is you're a custody of someone else's money, and the people, the investors that have given you money, they've begun to appreciate and understand, at least, and believe that they can quantify, and that you have remedies for the risks around a centralized exchange getting hacked, or you can use multiple exchanges, etc., etc. The risks around smart contracts are still very, I guess, unknown to the let's say average person. And even explaining a smart contract to potential investors is quite complex. And then you layer on a level more, which is that this whole space is built effectively on a big part of it is built on the DAO. It's the show the DAI. If DAI had to fail through some sort of catastrophic failure, the whole space is quite vulnerable. And I think those, and I guess this kind of is the counterpoint to your build deep liquidity. I think in time that might be the case when people get really comfortable. But at the moment, they see these. What you see as one honeypot, one sort of pot of cash. Other people see as a honeypot that is also a centralized point of failure.
That makes sense. We actually had, with the flurry of institutional interest in DeFi, given the market conditions, we've got a number of funds that we're working with, but the key ask has been a couple of times is how can we prove that we have sufficient control over what we invest in how? So, because take SushiSwap versus Uniswap, it would have been a bit kind of easy to get excited and move everything to SushiSwap and then kind of lose a lot of money. So we introduced the concept of DeFi firewalls because we effectively support ability for folks to use your traditional MetaMask, but with our integration to safely transact with keys in our custody, but with the flexibility of MetaMask. But they wanted the ability to control which transactions are approved or not. So we've introduced the firewalls to do that. So that's been pretty popular. And it sounds like that level of control of which smart contracts are safe to use, which are not. You might also want to control which ones you use. Have you got Nexus Mutual Insurance for it or something like that, and so on. So there's sort of mitigation actions there. I guess, Stani, you've built a brilliant protocol. And I think probably, if I'm right, the first set of users were much more kind of retail end users, but it sounds like you're getting more institutional interest. I'd love to get your perspective on that side of it.
Yeah, I definitely think so as well, because I've seen DeFi in general being driven a bit of a retail interest in crypto in general for the past history. I've seen in DeFi also like that there's interest from institutions, and also I see kind of like some of the retail segments are becoming more institutionalized. So practically it might be there might be some new functionality that becomes institutionalized, and one of the things are, for example, the liquidation networks on DeFi, let's say in Aave protocol, Maker. And these entities that are running these bots, they are becoming more professional. So that's interesting to see. And also some of the liquidity providers are becoming more professional as well. And in terms of institutional interest, there definitely is. I think for us, the kind of like biggest concerns are related towards the security, because not every DeFi is equally the same. As what we could say that not each cryptocurrency is equally the same technically, and other properties related to that. In that case, kind of like each DeFi protocol has its own kind of like complexity and also the way it has been built, risk assessment on different kinds of assets that the protocol has listed, and risk parameters. And I think this kind of like a safety is one of the things that institutions are eager to understand more, and basically what are the risks, because the interesting part is that all the data in DeFi and on blockchain is actually transparent and available, auditable by anyone, by institutions, by regulators, and there isn't just yet enough tools actually to quantify and basically analyze that risk.
Let's stop talking about barriers and let's start talking about something cool, which is, you got flash loans, rate switching, credit delegation. I'd love to know more a little bit about those things. What do they mean? Because I think this is the new stuff that actually you can only pretty much do on blockchain right now. I'd love to hear about those opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. So as the Aave protocol itself, what's interesting is it's always been about unlocking liquidity. So practically you might deposit one asset to an interest, but also you might borrow some stable coin, for example, and you have a long position in that deposit asset. So roughly 75% of the depositors, they're depositing into Aave, but they're not exercising their credit line, which practically means that there is roughly 1.5 billion worth of value in the smart contracts sitting there basically as a collateral. And what flash loans allows to do is to borrow all that liquidity in one single transaction and use that liquidity in one transaction on the Ethereum network. So it allows to do different kinds of functionality, such as arbitrage, for example, refinancing loans from one protocol to another, and swapping your collateral from one to another if you have a loan position, and various other things. So it's kind of like a way to get that liquidity into usage, and it generates also additional interest for the depositors who are providing that liquidity into the smart contracts. And I think flash loans is kind of like, we see flash loans quite often related to some sort of like a arbitrage exploits. And I think the issue is not flash loans per se, because it's usually the assumption of the protocol developers thinking that no one could have, let's say, 30 or 100 million worth of value, and they can come and just manipulate the market and use that manipulation and extract that kind of like a profit out of the market. When in fact, like when you're developing this protocol, you have to think that kind of like you can't make assumptions like this, and you have to kind of consider that there's infinite amount of liquidity when someone is interacting with these protocols, and they have to be resilient in flash loans. But in general, I think we have since January up to somewhere until November, early November, we have over $500 million worth of flash loans consumed from the Aave protocol, which shows that they're actually used in many other ways as well.
Just like an intra-block lending and borrowing.
Yes. It's kind of like, if you think about like some of the traditional finance, they might have settlements 1-2 days, or let's say end of the day. This settlement is practically on that block.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, intra-block. Cool. Yep. But I suppose it doesn't sound as cool as Flash. So
intra-block loan. How boring.
Cool.
I think the other thing that those might do, which is like maybe in sort of 5 or 10 years time, is that they provide the why do people raise funds to begin with? Well, you raise funds because you have a strategy, but you need obviously more capital to deploy it with. But a flash loan, if people I haven't necessarily seen any of these, but if you could design strategies that run intra-block, you could effectively deploy the strategy and use the flash loan capital as your fund's capital, and you wouldn't even launch a fund. It would be effectively a one-person team. And I know some people are doing that. Obviously, you're talking about arbitrage and also some exploiters. But it'll be interesting to see in time if people sort of professionalize around a small group of people that profit off using the flash loan liquidity as they effectively fund liquidity, because then you also only pay for it when you need it. Much like AWS, you only pay for your computing power as you need it. Very interesting.
And the interesting part is that kind of like, because you don't need kind of like you have the capital on demand, you basically pay on demand, so you don't need to have it upfront. And practically, if it comes to liquidations on MakerDAO system, the Aave system, or other protocols, it's difficult to compete with flash loans, because you get the liquidity, and it's up to then the kind of like a gas cost and so.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, it's pretty exciting.
Interesting.
I guess maybe we finish off on yet another very exciting aspect, which is ETH2. It's around the corner. It's been around the corner for a long time. In fact, I think it's gone around every corner of a hexadecimal building, but it feels like it's right almost there. So I'd love your thoughts about, James, what does it mean? What does proof of stake mean? Yields on ETH2 versus ETH1. Love to kind of get your thoughts on this one.
Sure. I'm definitely not the technical expert, but I think that I think it's exciting. I know it's been around for a while. I think it will almost launch as the biggest proof of stake. I know it may be second biggest if you think Tezos, but it is. I think for me the more exciting element is what it enables. So it enables and hopefully transactions of sort of thousands a second. And as Stani would know, we've built this whole ecosystem. What we'll say we have this whole ecosystem's been built on Ethereum, and it's interoperable and it's brilliant. And the mind hive, or the hive mind that's sitting on the Solidity platform is huge. And one of the big sticklers is transaction costs. So I can't lease things for a second because transaction costs are too high. I know I sit on a board of a company called Identity.com that's trying to provide digital identity, and they built out a whole system on Ethereum that had to sort of stop for now and are looking at potential other options. So ETH2 enables a whole sort of mirror of other opportunities and other sort of spaces like DeFi, other sort of specialities within crypto, and that's very exciting. In terms of the yields being different, I think that's just the market working out its terms of efficiency. There are obviously risks associated with it. You have to lock up and stake your capital for quite a while. That time has a cost, and also it may be indefinite if protocols, but potential given how long it's taken so far. I mean, these are very difficult problems, so I'm no way trivializing them, but of course those risks are those risks the market tries to factor in.
I guess if staking 2 is very popular, that dries up staking ETH supply in ETH 1 and potentially kind of increase gas inflation so that's a bit of a concern for me. Any final thoughts on ETH 2, Stani?
Yeah, I think interesting part is like how the ETH2 staking incentives will affect the DeFi yields, because they kind of are in parallel in the sense that there is demand to borrow ETH, let's say on DeFi, but when it's staking, practically there will be also more demand to borrow ETH. So interesting part will be kind of like what could be the arbitrage in between, because it might be that the lending deposit rate on DeFi on ETH might be practically something that is close to the ETH staking rate minus the kind of like operational cost and other indirect affected costs and risks, and that could be pretty interesting. And also secondly, some of the kind of like a staking as a service, and also this kind of like a DAOs that are looking into partake into the staking, they're looking to basically tokenize those staking positions. And this is something that we're talking with other this kind of like service providers of them creating a actual money market for staked ETH, using it as a collateral to borrow liquidity from Aave. Those are kind of a couple of interesting aspects.
And that's also going to let the market trade on the sort of the progress of ETH2. As we get closer, the price, assuming there's a discount between ETH2 and ETH, or maybe the other way, but it allows sort of the market to trade in the frothiness of the process as well, which is quite exciting. I think overall it's going to be an interesting time, but I think it's also be very good for the space in the long run.
I would agree. And speaking of time, we're out of it. So thank you so much, Stani, and thank you very much, James. And I bid you farewell, and back to Tina. Thank you.